Skin is the largest organ that surrounds the body of the fetal pig, and it ensures that it protects the body of the pig. Sebaceous glands are present to ensure that the skin is moist through the excretion of oil. The hair is to protect their bodies from the elements, helps regulate heat, and is a sensory item. That is why there are hair follicles that have nerve endings attached to it. The mouth is where the food initially enters the body and breaks down the food into smaller pieces in order for the pig to digest it. Once the food is softened by the saliva in the mouth, it will then enter the esophagus. The esophagus joins the mouth and the stomach together. Food is then pushed down through muscular contraction to enter the stomach. The stomach is where mechanical digestion occurs. Inside the stomach are longitudinal ridges that line the inside of the stomach called the rugae. The folds allow the stomach to contract and expand and also increase surface area. A fetal pig receives absorbed nutrients from its mother through the umbilical cord, so there will be no food in the stomach. The umbilical cord is a rope-like cord that runs between the placenta and the abdomen of the developing fetus. The stomach then narrows to join the small intestine, known as the pyloric region. This is where the absorption of the small nutrients occur. The first portion of the small intestine is called the duodenum. The midsection of the small intestine is called the jejunum, and the last section is called the ileum. Below the junction of the large and small intestine is a small pouch structure called the cecum. Below the junction of the large and small intestine is a small pouch-like structure called the cecum. However, in animals such as pig, horses, and rabbit, the cecum is very important in the digestion of fibrous feeds. The large intestine is composed of two parts. The last part is called the colon and functions in reabsorption of water. The terminal portion of the large intestine is the rectum. This is the rectum. Digestive waste material stored in the rectum leaves the body through the anus. The large reddish organ that occupies much of the abdominal cavity is the liver. The large reddish-brown organ that occupies much of the abdominal cavity is the liver. A fetal pig has 5 lobes. The gallbladder is used to store bile made from the liver. The bile duct carries bile from the liver to the duodenum.
So this is the liver. The liver is part of the endocrine system, and the endocrine system helps maintain homeostasis throughout the body. So what the liver does is that it takes the nutrients and stuff before it sends to the gallbladder, and it brings it, sends it into the bloodstream so the nutrients can be given out throughout the body. This structure right here, it's kind of, I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of rough looking. That is the pancreas. What the pancreas does is that it regulates blood glucose levels throughout the body. So if you don't eat, or if you don't have enough sugar, the pancreas will produce sugar. And if you have too much sugar, the pancreas will reduce. This is called the endocrine gland. It's throughout right here and right here in the pig. What it does is produce hormones to go throughout the whole body. And like the liver and pancreas, all it does is that if the body has too little of something, they will produce more of it. But if the body has too much of something, they will reduce production.
The trachea supplies the air to the lungs. The trachea is ringed with cartilage so it does not collapse. The enlargement about midway on the trachea is the larynx, which is a voice box which contains the vocal cords. The lungs are where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. The thin muscular diaphragm is the muscle which is responsible for drawing air into the chest cavity. Spasms of these muscles result in hiccups. The rib cage protects the lungs and the heart. The kidneys remove metabolic waste from the blood in the form of urea and monitor and adjust composition of blood so cells are in constant composition. The ureter is the duct by which the urine passes from the kidney to the bladder. The urinary bladder is where the kidneys store urine until it is excreted from the body, and the urethra is a tube that carries urine from the bladder and releases it out of the body.
This, as well as these, are both ovaries, and these spaghetti ramen noodle looking tubes are uterine glands. They come together to connect to the vagina, which is right down here. The vagina then goes into urogenital sinus, which leads to the genital peiphilia, which is the urogenital opening, as well as the reproductive opening. The brain of the pig is located in the skull and the cranium in the head. This is a model of the brain. It's not a pig's brain, it's a dog's brain, but all mammal brains are quite similar. So this is called the cerebrum. That's where high-level thinking, sensory reception kind of is. And this dark gold right here, this dark kind of yellow, that's where the crossing of the neural pathways happen. This right is the brainstem. It connects the brain to the rest of the central nervous system. This pink right here, this is the cerebellum. It's where balance and depth perception is located. Now inside, there are these blue area. That's where the optic lobes are. So that's where when we see something, this is where it goes inside into the brain. So the brain is capable of receiving 5 receptors. The first one we're going to start with is the chemoreceptors, and that's responsible for taste and smell. And so the pig smells through its nostrils, and then it goes up to the brain to the chemoreceptors, and that's the same with the taste, and that's going to be with the tongue. Now we taste 5 different things. There's sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and umami. That's the taste of meat and cheese. The next one, it's going to be the pain and thermoreceptors, and that's really just going to be the skin all over the animal. Now, pain and thermoreceptors, they let the pig know when there's high heat or pressure involved, and it's also with the pain receptors when it goes up to the brain, it's responsible of the fight or flight responses. The thermoreceptors, that just detects hot and cold. It lets the pig know that it's too cold and needs to go out and sunbathe. The next one we're going to talk about are mechanoreceptors. Those are hearing and balance. Now the pig hears throughout with its ears right hand. It goes up to the mechanoreceptors and lets the pig know what it's hearing. And then it also is responsible for balance, which is part of the cerebellum right here. And the mechanoreceptor is also responsible for touch, and again, that's going to be with the skin. Now, there's an electromechanic receptors that has to do with the eyes, and that just lets the pig knows what it's seeing and what it needs to do, and that as well goes along with the optic lobes. This is the height of the pig. It's 4-chambered, so there's a left atrium and left ventricle, and a right atrium and right ventricle. Now, this kind of orange, and then the blue throughout the whole pig, those are arteries and veins. Now, arteries, they are oxygen rich, so they go throughout the body and away from the heart, and they deliver oxygen and nutrients, and they collect waste. And veins go back to the heart because the oxygen poor. Then the heart pumps them into the lungs so they can become oxygen rich again. Now, oxygen poor and oxygen rich blood will never come into contact because the heart is 4-chambered. Now I've cut up in the heart right here and right here. Those are both ventricles. this is the left atrium and the right atrium. Now the left atrium and the left ventricle have to do with the oxygen poor blood. And it comes out through this artery right here and goes into the lungs and throughout the rest of the body. But then also from the lungs, there's a vein that goes directly back to the heart to give the heart oxygen-rich blood, which is on the right atrium and right ventricle side. And from the right atrium and right ventricle, the oxygen-rich blood will be in the heart, and as well as go throughout the rest of the body.